Hi everyone! Thank you for joining me and Tombo here. My name's Clara, by the way, for another episode of Clara Makes, my knitting podcast. This is an exciting episode because it's my first pattern roundup video. I am a huge gift giver. I feel like my primary love language is gift giving, particularly with handmade gifts, because I just feel like they hold so much love and personality in them, and they're meant to be something that'll last you a lifetime. And what better gift is there than something you can carry through your entire life? That being said, I know not everyone loves gift knitting, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being what we call a selfish knitter. I knit most things for myself, but especially around the holiday season, me and many other people in the knitting community are starting to think about gift knits. So I want to make sure that me and you alike are going into this season armed with a bunch of ideas, because it's November now and soon it's going to be December. And if you celebrate Christmas like I do, you don't want to be sitting there like early to mid-December starting to cast on garments, God forbid, or any kind of project for everyone you know and love. So I'm coming at you with a list of a dozen last minute gift knits. So of course it's November, so we have some time, but I might recommend that you save or put this in some sort of notes app or playlist for you to reference a month from now when you're freaking out a little more about gifts in general and gift knitting, because each of these projects is aimed to last somewhere between an evening and a week. So say you have 6 people you want to gift knit for, you can start now and go for things that'll last you a week to knit. But if it's December 20th and you're a little bit more of a procrastinator, you might want to just be fast forwarding this part where I'm yapping and get to the first couple patterns that I'm going to talk about, which should take you just a couple of hours. Now, thinking about that kind of balance between love of giving people handmade special gifts and kind of the panic of making something that takes so long, and it's not a fast art form. I have tried to prioritize free patterns. I've tried to give you a couple different options for different aesthetics and different things that you may have in your stash that you want to use, and I've organized these 12 different gift knits from the ones that I think will take you the least time to the end of the video, which are the ones that will take you the most time. So enough chatting, let's get into the list. So the first pattern that I have on the list is something that I've made quite a bit of. I actually made a bunch of these to vend at a Christmas fair last year, and those are Christmas tree ornaments. So I originally got this idea from watching Hip Knit Hooray, who I'll tag here. She seems like a super sweet person. I love her style, and she has a YouTube channel where she shares, among other things, knitting, and in the holiday season she vends a lot of small different Christmas tree ornaments. So I was inspired and I took to the pattern called Tiny Sweaters, which is a free pattern by West Wool. These are perfect because you can use just a teeny tiny amount of scraps to make them. I usually use a worsted weight, and they're set up to be knit on double pointed needles, which I've done. I usually just prefer doing it on a magic loop, but basically it's just a tiny raglan sweater. So you get the satisfaction of knitting someone a sweater in a 1 or a 1.5 hour time period, while also getting things out of your scraps. So it's just a win-win-win in my opinion. I particularly like to make these mini Weasley sweaters by then going in with a crochet hook and doing surface crochet to embroider the person's initial on it. I'll pop a picture of one I just made for my boyfriend with his college logo letter on it. If you are more of a sock knitter and you tend to have sock weight yarn in stash and have a little bit more time, like maybe an evening, to make one of these, you could look at the mini crop puff pattern by the Wandering Flock, which is also free. It's this cutesy sweater form, also tiny, made with fingering weight wool, so it has a higher stitch count, but it's like a cropped, oversized tiny sweater, so that kind of look. I also forgot to mention, but my mom actually gave me this idea. I ordered a bunch of metal doll hangers to put these on, and that way you can put the sweater on the tiny hanger and hang it on the tree, and that just adds an extra level of adorableness that really makes the gift. If you want to knit these for a family, it would be so cute to have each person's initials on a sweater, or if you're giving it to a family that you only want to make one gift, you could just make one and put their last initial on it, because they're all probably going to share a tree. Also, if you're super crafty and you know how to work with wire, you can probably make those little hangers yourself. Then when we get into the world of Christmas tree ornaments, there's like a million different kinds of ornaments you can make. There's mushrooms. There's this really cute pattern called the Enchanted Mushrooms by Drops Design, also a free pattern, also great for scraps. And then there's one called the Tiny Tree Socks by the Queen of Socks herself, Summer Lee. So if you just search up in Ravelry, Christmas ornaments, you'll find a million gajillion things, but those are my favorites that I wanted to share with you. So now moving to number 2, which I think is an equally cute and fast knit, is making scrunchies. So these, my friend and I used to sew them in high school, but basically you're just making a tube that you put around a rubber band, like a hair tie rubber band, and then you join it at the end. So you're just knitting like a flat piece that you then seam, or a tube of some sort. I really like the free pattern called the Bisou Scrunchies by Camille K. This one is a free pattern. I think it would look really good. Like, I'm thinking of it, making it with some of this Drops Air, like a super fluffy blown yarn, or just scraps of any kind. Holding something with the mohair would give it that fluffy look. You could go a little more bold and patterned with the stripy scrunchie pattern, also free, by Nina Holubkova. And then since you're just knitting a tube, I think after you make a basic one, you can get really creative with how you go about making the fabric. So you could do it in a lace stitch. I also like the idea of doing a decorative edge, like maybe with a picot folded stitch, to give it a little bit of a girly frill. So number 3, also something that I think you could make in an evening, is bag charms. So I love to thrift, and I thrift all of my purses and bags. And I know it was a huge trend this past year to really personalize your accessories and your bags with a bunch of different charms. And it was like very Pinterest girl to just have an aesthetically cluttered bag. I've decorated mine with some stuff that I've made, but I haven't like gotten really into it. But I think it would be such a cute gift for a friend or a more feminine person in your life to maybe thrift them a bag and then make bag charms through knitting or even crochet. I know this is a knitting focused channel, but I also crochet, so I'm gonna like put in some patterns for both of those art forms. First, a pattern that I love as a marine biologist is the Rybka pouch, which is a tiny little fish that its mouth opens up and then it's kind of cinched so you can fit something in there. I think that would be so cute, so you can like attach it to your bag and have like a chapstick or your AirPods in there. And that's by the Rat and Sea Witch. That is a paid pattern, but I think it would be so worth it. Then if you want to go a little crazier and have like a little scarf on your bag or something a little larger, I really like the idea of making a bow. I know Augustine's DK has a good bow pattern. It's her Augustine's number 22. That would take a little more time. If you like really want to make something simple, you could even just make an I-cord, tie it into a bow, and then like put it on a little chain on someone's purse. I'll put up some Pinterest pictures for that, but since it's just an I-cord, you don't really need a pattern. And then finally, if you are thinking of crocheting, I bet you could knit this too. It just might take a little bit longer. One of my really good friends has this little crocheted Miffy that's on her purse, which I just love. If you don't know Miffy, she's this little bunny cartoon character. And Tonia Mandia has a really cute Miffy plush pattern that if you make in tiny yarn, I think would be such a cute back charm. And then you could even like give her her own little clothes. How cute would that be? So she's just as stylish as your bag is. So I love the idea of knitting a tiny little house and then decorating it to look like the place where someone lives. So I think this would be a particularly amazing gift for anyone who's just moved or is a new homeowner. You could then go in and like embroider maybe their pets outside or their bikes if they love to bike, or anything that kind of encapsulates their personality and where they like to live. The two patterns that I found for this are the Little House pattern by Susan B. Anderson. I think Susan B. Anderson is like the queen of cute things. I'll be bringing up some of her patterns later, but this is just a super simple house pattern, which I can imagine someone like displaying on a bookshelf, and you could knit it in scraps in the color of their house. It would also be a really good gift for a roommate. Then if you want to make something that would be a little smaller and take less time, you could make the Little Cottage pattern, which is free by Agatutak. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. And it's a little house that you put on a keychain. So the same idea, but kind of a smaller investment of time and yarn. Moving on, something similarly cottagecore that I love is a teapot cozy. So I'm a huge tea drinker. I think if you want to make a really special gift, I'm always seeing adorable teapots and mugs at the thrift. You could like get someone a teapot, put some tea in it, and then knit them this cozy. If you want to go really overboard, feel free to steal that idea. And there's this huge wealth of knitted teapot cozies, basically to keep the tea warm once you have it brewing in the pot. I particularly like the Solstice Glow pattern by Bunny Muff, which features these really cute cottagecore chickens and goose walking around the rim. I also really like the Cozy Cabin pattern, which is free by Yarnspirations, just bringing back that house theme and that cottagecore theme as well. And then finally, if you want to make something a little more traditional, there's a lot of Fair Isle and stranded colorwork patterns. I thought the Nora Tea Cozy was really striking by Knitlit. And this features this Nordic rose or pointed star design and just 2 colors. So that would be a good way to use up 2 single balls of yarn. Now I have a couple of accessories that I thought would be particularly cute. The first is a beret. I think it's such a basic, I mean, it's popular for a reason, right? But it's a basic gift to knit someone a beanie. I've knit, I can't even tell you how many beanies as gift knits in my life. I'm starting to think, what else can I make that is as quick and satisfying as a hat and only uses up 1 skein, but is just a little different and would be a little more special to receive. And I think a beret really fits that brief. The 2 patterns I found would look really good with like 1 skein of fingering weight yarn, maybe a sock skein you got that's particularly special that's just been sitting in your stash, and then possibly you could make it a fuzzy fabric by adding mohair or suri alpaca. So I really like the beret number 3 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I think a lot of berets can be kind of floppy, which can be a look, but this one's a little more structured. So if I was receiving this gift, I'd like the beret number 3. But then if you want like a classic Parisian floppy beanie, I really like the one by Pearl Soho, and the good thing about Pearl Soho patterns is they're free, called the Classic Knit Beret. If you have a little more time and you want to delve into the Ravelry patterns available, there's tons of options to include Fair Isle stranded colorwork in there and make like a classic Scottish tam, or have cables that kind of radiate out from the central point. I made one of those for one of my best friends a while ago. The cable pattern was just so intriguing that I knit it really fast because I wanted to finish it up. Then another accessory that you could make, which is a gift knit I love, is a headband or an ear warmer. This is nice for someone who has longer hair and wants to put their hair up in a ponytail while still staying warm in the winter. I really prefer wearing headbands over beanies in the winter because I don't get hat hair as much. And then for the gift maker, it presents the added benefit of you only have to make like the first third of a beanie. So there's one that's really classic, the pattern that has the twist in the front, called the Frida, which is Free by Emily L. Then you can get kind of crazy with it. I really like the idea of just doing a cabled pattern to add some of that visual interest and squishy warmness. I found the Celtic pattern, which is Free by Juliana Lustenader. I've also just gone rogue and picked a cable pattern. Like I really like the one with the hearts, and I just knit it up and then seam it at the ends. So kind of a choose your own adventure there. Okay, for my next accessory, if you are my father, Fernando, skip like a minute because I don't want you to see this part, okay? But it's slippers. I found the doublet toffler pattern, which basically means double slipper, by Sadness Garn. It's a free pattern. I came across it because I watched the Norwegian knitter, I'll tag her here. She is like a friggin' powerhouse of a knitter, and she is making, I think, 50 of this pattern for everyone in her life for Christmas. I'm not going that crazy, but I did make my dad a pair, which is why he's not allowed to watch this section. And I made it with some leftover Lopi. I have it right in front of me. I have like, here we go, this whole bin of Lopi from when I went to Iceland as a teenager, and just picked up every color because I was obsessed with the fact that they sold yarn in the supermarket and needed to have it. And it's just been sitting in my stash ever since. So I had 2 big balls of gray, and they worked up great into a pair of these double slippers. These do take a while in the larger sizes because you are basically making 2 sets of 2 slippers because they're folded inside of each other. But the good part is the bit that gets folded inside, you can just use scraps. They don't have to match the rest of the color because you're not going to see that part. And then you felt them in the washing machine, so you are making them like huge to begin with. The other pattern that has been going pretty viral lately is the Sailor Slippers by Annie Sews. These are a paid pattern, which is why I didn't go for this. I also didn't have super bulky yarn in stash. But if you do, that would be great to bust just like a couple different colors of small amounts of stash yarn. I do hope to make those in the future. Just right now I'm in my doublet toffler era. Okay, so if you are Fernando Benedon, you can keep watching at this point. The next gift knit accessory that I really love is a fingerless mitt or a fingerless glove. I think that the penny gloves by Petite Knit really gave these a moment in the spotlight. Since it's knitted at such a small gauge, they look really professional and almost store-bought, but with that handmade character. They also, because they don't take that much yarn, give you an opportunity to highlight a really nice skein of sock yarn, maybe paired with some mohair. Those are a paid pattern, which, like many Petite Knit designs, is a little annoying because they are so basic. So I found some really popular dupes on Ravelry for you. First, there's the Timeless Hat and Hand Warmers by Pearl Soho. They look almost exactly the same except for like an extra pearl row on the top of the hand that you could just omit. And if you want to make a nice set for a loved one, you could include the hat in that gift knit. Then there's the Duke City mitts, which I didn't write down the pattern creator, but I'll put it up. Those look exactly the same and they're free with 584 projects up on Ravelry. So they are a tried and true pattern. Then you can get kind of more exciting with it if you prefer a design with a little more character. I personally really like the Cloudburst Mittens by Adrian Gray. This is a free pattern that features this like little lacy design in the center of the mitt, which like I guess it would let some air in, but if you're using a mohair, the fluff would keep you warm anyways. So now I'm getting back to some things for the home, and we're back to patterns that are gonna take you a little longer than like a day or two. To be fair, I think the mittens and the slippers would take you at least a weekend depending on what size you're making. But this next pattern is one that my mom has made a bunch of for our home, and they've stayed in really good condition and add a lot of character. They're dish towels, or like towels for drying your hands in the bathroom, which is super simple but practical. And you can make them really gorgeous, especially if you're using a nice combination of like linen or cotton yarn. I once again recommend going to Pearl Soho to get these designs. They have really cute free patterns. There's the easy scalloped dish towels, which have this little like scalloped edge, and you would just need one color for that. And then the one that my mom has made a bunch of time is the slip stitch dish towels, and those feature two colors which create this almost woven looking fabric. And I think if you are making something for someone who kind of has everything, dish towels, you can never have enough of them, because I feel like mine are just constantly in the laundry when I need them. And then another thing for the home, this is something that I personally would only attempt if I'm not rushed for time before Christmas or whenever I'm giving this gift knit. It's a pillow cover. So you could either like steal one of their pillows and just make the cover, or get a pillow from Home Goods and make a pillow cover. But part of becoming an adult is that I've realized that pillows are really expensive. And having a knit pillow cover in the home would just be such a beautiful conversation piece and addition to a cozy living room. My favorite is the Stella Quilt Cushion by Laura Penrose. This is like the ultimate cottagecore cushion. I'm obsessed with quilting, and since I have no idea how to quilt or really sew at all, the idea of being able to knit a quilted design is really appealing to me. It is also very amenable to using scraps for all of the different colors of the star, like the quilted star. Something that I think would take a little less time is the Adorable pillow, Adorable by Sasky & Co. It's in the shape of a donut. This would definitely be for someone with a little more quirky maximalist style. I like the idea of doing it with like strawberry icing, so it's pink, and then maybe using scraps or even beads to embroider little sprinkles of it. I don't think it would take as long as the Stella Quilt Cushion, because you can use bulky yarn and basically just make a tube. Finally, something that I think I might attempt if I only have like a week or weekend left until Christmas is the Tanka herringbone pattern. So this is by Novita, so it's free. And it's a rectangle pattern knit in bulky yarn. So since it's a rectangle, I imagine it would only take half the time of like knitting a square pillow cover. And then since it's knit in bulky yarn, it would go along pretty fast. And it's a very like classy herringbone design that I think would fit most people's aesthetic. Finally, if you are knitting me a gift, this is what I would want: a stuffed animal or a plushie. I think Jellycats, like that brand with all the cute little animals, I have a couple of them, I'll put pictures up, have reminded us that like we all still have our inner child inside of us. And I know the vast majority of my friends still have stuffed animals as an adult. So this is something I hope you could give to someone of any age range, as long as they still have their whimsy alive. But there's a couple designers who I'm gonna highlight who are just winning the game at making stuffed animal designs. First, there's Cynthia Valle. She has the book Moosh and Friends, and that highlights a lot of very adorable knitted plushie patterns of little animals and clothes that you can also buy individually on Ravelry if a certain one catches your eye. I really like the I the Sheep pattern. I've talked about it before. I know that, what is her name? I think her name is Paige Knits Daily, but I will put it up here and correct myself if not. She knit one of those on a road trip, and I really love how hers turned out. Another amazing designer is Susan B. Anderson, who I think I brought up earlier as well. She has a bunch of good insert animal name designs. I particularly like the Good Bear. She also has a bunch of animals that come with their own clothes. I really like the Christopher bunny because he has an adorable little sweater on. How cute would that be? And you can also like give someone the base animal, and then maybe for a holiday later you can give them little clothes for their animal, so it's just a gift that keeps giving. Then the one that I'm personally going to make, because I have the yarn in stash, is the Freddy Platypus by Joanna Johnson. That one's just so cute, and she actually has a set of children's books to go with the different knitted characters. So if you have a kid in your life who's maybe learning to read or loves to read, hi Tombo, he's such a love. Oh, he's flopping. But anyways, the knitted animal and the book would be a great gift set for a kid. So that's all of my notes. That is all 12 of the patterns I put together for you guys. I wish you all the best of luck in gift knitting. Also, I probably am going to make some of these for myself once I'm not stressed about gift knitting, because they're just good, quick stash busting patterns. So please let me know down below if you have any other gift knitting recommendations, or if any of these caught your eye and you're planning to cast on. Happy knitting! Thanks for joining me today. Bye!